I'm doing my part.
Hello, world, and welcome to A24 on the Rocks. Today we'll be doing a vibe discussion. We'll be discussing a film outside of the A24 catalog that is near and dear to my heart. And all I've got to say is, come on, you damn dirty apes, you want to live forever? That's right, we are headed to Clandathu to eradicate the vile bug menace known as the arachnids. Boys, are you with me?
I'm with you.
The only good bug's a dead bug.
Hell yeah. All right, that's right. We are reviewing Starship Troopers, the 1997 classic that may have been misunderstood at the time, but seems somewhat relevant today, and some of the fun stuff that we got going on. But with me, as always, we've got, we'll start with you, Eric. What are you drinking tonight, and what's going on?
I'm Eric, and I'm drinking more Featherbone Bourbon Whiskey from Journeyman Distillery, just because I thought it was a nice American bourbon whiskey, even though, this film takes place in Buenos Aires and also in, other planets. So
space.
Not exactly. I don't know why I'm drinking American whiskey, actually.
Yeah,
oh, well.
I was thinking, what bourbon do I have?
United Citizen
That's
whiskey.
space.
Citizen
I don't have a citizen whiskey. I need exactly. I need a citizen whiskey. I don't have one of those. Yeah. So I'm just drinking my Michter single barrel that I always drink when I have nothing else to drink, because rye is delicious. So rye whiskey. That's the answer for me.
Fair enough. I am Cole Willa Gibson. I will be your host this evening. I am drinking Starforge Australian whiskey. So I tried to find my most space-themed whiskey for this one.
I think that was the whiskey you drank on episode 1, Cole.
I love that.
I'm pretty sure
much.
Starward is
good.
like the it's either one or like the very first episodes that we've done.
I've also figured out the liquor store right near me has a bunch of different Jeffersons now. And so now I have an actual pick from Jefferson's I want to drink.
Yeah, but be careful. That's because it got real popular, and they're just starting to bottle it all and gimmick the shit out of it. So honestly, just keep sticking with the $30 bottle, like the cheap bottom one, because it's still just as good.
Are
as
you
the
telling me I can buy
bottle.
a fraud Jefferson's?
No. I'm just saying the Jefferson's Reserve is their like most basic bottle, and it's only like $29.99 or whatever, and it's just as good in my opinion as like Jefferson's Ocean or like the gimmicky $100 bottles.
I like the ocean. Kevin,
It does taste a little saltier, I think. I do think that.
I want to try the humidity version. All right,
but fine.
Could be a placebo
we
effect.
digress. We collectively digress.
You will see some administrative punishments later.
The A24 Vibe discussion.
So back to the film at hand. We are talking about Starship Troopers. It came out in 1997. It had a budget of $114 million. The synopsis is that it is in the not-so-distant future where the Earth is governed by a militaristic United Citizen Federation, and they are currently in the midst of a war with Clandathu and the arachnids, threatening the safety of our solar system. And we follow a trio of hometown heroes and friends as they work to ensure mankind's future in the Starship Troopers universe. So my first question to you guys is, have you ever heard of this film, and have you ever seen it? Let's start with you, Kevin.
Absolutely 100% heard of it. It is synonymous with American film culture, internet culture. There's memes for days that are associated with this film. I always knew it existed. I had never seen it until last night. So here I am in 2024 after a film that's been around my entire life, and finally getting a chance to sit down and watch it. I honestly half-heartedly was like, man, I wonder if I'd seen this before when I sat down. I was like, maybe I'll get away with not being able to pay attention. Nope, never seen it, so I had to pay attention to the whole damn thing, and I'm glad I had this opportunity to do it, because it's definitely a movie to check off the old list of saying I have seen Starship Troopers. Boom.
Very nice. What about you, Eric?
Same thing. I have never seen it, definitely heard of it, and so I was just like, as a big film fan, I could not believe that I waited this long to see this film. But I also expected something completely different with this film. I thought it was actually a Star Wars satire in the light of Spaceballs or something like that, but it's not really that at all. But we'll get there.
Yeah. So I this was the film that I had chosen for our A24 Vibes discussion. This was one that I watched as a young child and absolutely loved the idea and the action and all that stuff. And then I grew to love it even more as I've gotten older. As we'll get into it, there is a lot of, I think as a child when I watched it, it was like a cool sci-fi action monster hunter type film. And then as I got older, does such a good satirical view of kind of fascism and the militaristic propaganda and things that I think we experience, especially all of us growing up in the kind of the post 9/11 era, being children kind of exposed to some of that. Kevin, you got your hand
I think,
up there?
Eric, you're exactly right in the sense I thought I was going into it with the Spaceballs comp in my head for sure. Like, we were going to see something funny. It was going to be kind of like that off-the-cuff, ha-ha, we're going to shoot some things up. But like Eric said, it was absolutely not that at all. Yeah, there were some moments where you kind of are, like, there's some comedy side of it. But for the most part, it's trying to take a very real look at the horrors of war in a 1990 CGI/practical effect.
Okay, so this is where we're going to have some discussion for sure. Is it trying to be take a real look at war, or is it trying to? It's supposed to be a satire, right? But I think it's supposed to almost make fun of war films in a way, pro-war films.
Okay, so the reason I say that a very real look at war, meaning that there's no way to sugarcoat your buddies all dying in the mud. Right, like that is the realistic part of war. Regardless of where the commentary is, it showed that the guys that you went through boot camp with, the ones that you cared about, are dying, and that's war.
So this is where I think a lot of the general public, which I'm sure Cole probably was going to get to this, but a lot of the general public was confused because there's not a lot of laugh out loud funny moments in this, and it's supposed to be a satire, I guess, because Paul Verhoeven, the director, and Edward Neumeier, the writer, both said this is a satire, and they took it off of a real source material that was probably trying to be very serious about it. But then both those guys said, like, no, this isn't supposed to be like a completely like serious, take it on its face film. But then, like, there's not a lot of laugh out loud funny parts in it, so it confuses me too. Which is, let's discuss more about it. But like,
absolutely,
would you like to know more? Is also like, okay, that part too. What you were saying, living in the nowadays, that's just like YouTube. It's just like, do you want to watch this next video? And like Netflix, like, this is something that we suggest you should watch next. They were doing, like, they had this joke about it in 1997, and it felt like they were foreseeing things for the next 25 years.
With a little sprinkle of political agenda, and you want to be a citizen? Like, here's your join the army. Like, fucking creepy as hell talking about it in 2024, 25, 27, whatever years later. Like, what?
Yeah. Felt dystopian a little bit.
Dude, it definitely does.
Well, and to kind of add some more fuel to the fire, the director, he grew up in Nazi-controlled Holland, and really kind of, you could see a lot of his maybe his own experiences, or World War II of being underneath the Nazi control. From a lot of the uniforms are very SS.
Oh yeah, Carl's uniform. I was like, oh, that's a Nazi uniform. Yep.
Yeah, and then just the. One thing I want to ask you guys is, what did you think about all of the intercuts of just like the federal news? So obviously the government's controlling the news, education, all that stuff, and it's the citizenship, and they do some of these kind of expo dumps of just with these news kind of clips, and you start off the film with the federal news. So Eric, let's go to you first. How did you feel about the implementation of that? What did it add or subtract?
So before I read any context in the film, I did feel like they were trying to just take it on its nose. Like, okay, this is the America we're living in, where America is probably taking over South America, like they're living in Buenos Aires. We are just in this dystopian future where there's definitely, like, I don't know, you have very set options of what you can contribute to society. And yeah, there's probably a lot of military propaganda in there. And so, like, the news network, I thought they were just trying to kind of show, like, okay, in this dystopian world, this is what the news network is like. But no, they're definitely, after receiving it, which, like, at the time, I probably would have received it in the former way, but now after receiving it and like I can read into it a little bit more, oh yeah, they're definitely trying to make a big comment on military propaganda. And what I thought of again was just like, this is like YouTube. Like they're like putting out like if you get in the algorithm of a far right YouTube space, they will keep pitching you more and more YouTube videos that are far right. They obviously didn't know that YouTube would be like this at the time, but they thought like, oh, if there was like a channel that just played this kind of like propaganda, they would just be like, okay, do you want to know more? They would get you further down the rabbit hole. And so looking back on it, I'm just like, that's totally what they didn't even know they were doing at the time, but they thought like, this is how what it's going to become. This is what military propaganda is going to become in 50 some years. So
yeah, and I think there's a reason that you see that in other depictions of the future. I mean, you see it in George Orwell's 1984. Thank you. With the way they do the floating screens in your room 24/7, portraying all of the news. You think about it in Idiocracy, the way that they have the screens in your face all the time, giving you absolutely everything. Like yeah, exactly. Like there's a lot of these examples of the way that it's kind of the future will indoctrinate you, and especially if you think about it from this perspective of they need soldiers, right? They absolutely need bodies to fight the bugs, so they got to do something to try to bribe them in, and that whole idea of gets you citizenship and allows you to vote only if you join the fucking active military is, it's terrifying, but probably a reality in a lot of countries, right? There's mandatory military services in a lot of Far East Asian countries, right? Korea comes to mind, that every adult has to mandatory.
Well, that's both Koreas. But you can vote without military.
Well, right. Yeah. But as far as like, there's other major countries, civilized countries that mandate military service.
Yeah.
It still happens today, modernly. So, there's definitely something to consider there.
Yeah.
So this movie definitely has a lot of things to unpack, and I think it was it's very unique that it came out in 1997, and then shortly a few years later we had the 9/11 and some of the, I think, unique parallels that almost come about through this film in terms of it also, I would highly recommend watching this more than once, because some of the things I did not pick up when I first watched it. I've watched this way too many times at this point. But, there's a whole theory or thought that the Buenos Aires incident was not actually caused by the bugs, and was strictly just a way to bolster the this whole fascist ideology of a militaristic country and government that needs an enemy and needs to focus on something, and that Buenos Aires was just a casualty of getting more people involved in bolstering their government. And some people may say I don't think 9/11 was an inside job. But they talk about, asteroids.
Thanks for saying that.
WMDs.
Your old quarterback doesn't think so.
Bolstering the military and getting a lot more involvement.
Shut up.
Getting all the additional fundings and all that stuff. It's just like, it's very interesting how this film like nailed so many things that are like happened after post 9/11 and that 2001 incident. And it's just very, very
odd theory I had in my head. Carmen, when they take out that meteor, they only take out part of it and destroys a lot of their ship, right? I thought that thing just headed straight for Earth and then went to Buenos Aires.
I also thought that Carmen had something to do with the possibility of the asteroid going, because she was hot-headed and thought by cutting off that little bit of extra time that it resulted in her going into the asteroid, which would have resulted in it going and killing all of her loved ones, which I thought would have been a fucking great twist.
Yeah, I don't think she did it on purpose, but I think it's like she just cut part of that asteroid and then the rest of it went to Earth.
No, she didn't on purpose, but she definitely did it to show off for that boy.
Yeah.
Like, haha, look at me, I can beat him faster.
Yeah.
With his fucking stupid haircut.
If you break it down from like a scientific perspective, Clandathu, the arachnid homeworld, is on the complete opposite side of the whole entire galaxy. And for them to launch an asteroid and hit Earth with like pinpoint accuracy, they have to be down to like a fraction of like an angle and all that stuff.
Not to mention time, right?
Time and everything. And then if that ship does hit it, that will like very minutely change the trajectory. But when you're talking about like light years worth of distance, In a way, I think it definitely lends itself that she caused it by accidentally hitting it, and then they just used that to bolster their
it could have been like an accidental
regime.
Accidental natural disaster that they just used to bolster.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
It just happened to be her hometown that destroyed the process.
But let's get into. I know. Before we started this, Kevin did mention when we were talking offline that this film had a budget of 114 million dollars, which is quite a lot even in 1997, and is still quite a lot for a film nowadays. It's not on the Marvel level, but it is a lot, and half of that went to the visuals and the CGI of this film. And I want to know what your guys' thoughts were just overall in terms of the kind of cinematography and that CGI specifically. Do you think it lent itself for the budget, and did they use it wisely? Let's go to you, Kevin, first.
I like the practical effects better than the CGI in this film. I thought that the practical effects of the bugs, especially the big brain bug, and kind of some of the ways that they had our boy get his brain drained. It was very reminiscent of The Thing. I think there was some cool moments of that. Wasn't a big fan of the CGI with the big shooting blue arcs and the blowing up of the ships. And God bless it, that I don't even know. It felt like a practical model. The away ship that landed and got them out of the trouble. When it came into the base, that ship, the outpost, right? When that ship lands, and I was like, "What the fuck is that thing?" It was like they filmed a mini model really close, and it had it like vibrating, and it was just, I was like, "Oh," but I couldn't tell. So to answer your question, CGI meh, practical effects pretty good. I'll give it that. I did appreciate the hordes of the bugs from an effect. Like, they really did a good job of making me feel like it was a hopeless endeavor because there was so many of those bugs. But I also couldn't help but think of the Zerg from Star Trek, or from Star. Brain help.
Star Trek.
Starcraft.
Oh,
Starcraft.
The video game.
Okay.
Right. That's what it's called. Right.
Yeah.
I think so.
Those bugs. Yeah, StarCraft.
Not a StarCraft.
Yeah. StarCraft, the Zerg.
You got the Tyranids of the Warhammer 40.
Yeah, the Terran and the Zerg and the Protoss. Anyway, effects. Good job. The military effects, meh. Like the guns and all of that stuff, and the way that they had the bullets and the fighting. Meh, obviously, 1990s. Not going to be impressive. Wasn't looking for it to be impressive. But there was some cool parts in it, for sure.
What about you, Eric?
I'd say it was good because I watched it in 4K UHD, unlike you schmucks. And
Netflix, baby.
Yeah, I actually, but no, I mean Netflix is 4K stuff. It's just slightly less than the actual disc of the movie.
Wait, did you have a disc of Starship Troopers?
I actually no, I watched it on Prime. I was just making sure. I should have. But actually, no, I thought the effects were pretty good though, especially for the '90s, and the bugs they looked great actually. All the star travel and everything, the guns. I don't know. It was a little like sappy, but I would say that not sappy, but a little cheesy, but
kind of campy.
Yeah, campy. Yeah. But I still think it definitely worked, especially like you watch a film from the 90s or 80s, and like the effects weren't going to be as good because obviously computers weren't as far along then. It's really like the modern like odyssey of Lord of the Rings that really brought it to the modern age. I would say like computer effects. So this was pre Lord of the Rings, and I got what I expected out of it. I think, and it didn't like fail where like you see claymation sequences in other films and you're like, what the fuck, But yeah, it was good. I think.
Yeah, I thought the gore realism was pretty good, right? There was a lot of scenes where they had to show some pretty graphic stuff, where the training accident where the dude gets his head blown off, to some of the ways that they depict the bugs stabbing various people. Like, they did a great job from a gore perspective of the costuming, right, and the makeup, and being able to kind of depict some of those things. They did but that goes back to my praise of the practical effects, right? Because that's all the stuff that they have to put on the bodies of the actors and shoot in real live. Like, the CGI isn't getting applied to the people. Like, all of the actual actors are getting physical effects, which is just fantastic.
So when this film first came out, it had a lot of negative. The critics and kind of a lot of people, I think it missed its mark, so to speak. And one of the main criticisms was the gore that Kevin just alluded to, was that it seemed excessive and over the top. Eric, do you feel like the gore or the use of it was over the top or unnecessary, or did you think that it was like added to the story or the vibe of the film in itself?
I think it added to it, definitely. I mean, it's trying to be satire on military and like fascist propaganda, I think. And yeah, what they were trying to accomplish is when you're, in the military, like how much these people sacrifice, how much they give up for everybody. And what they're trying to make the joke on is, though, like they're doing this while killing like a whole species of creatures, and we're like led under the facade, oh, these are bugs, so we look at these bugs and we're like, they're not humans, so let's fucking kill them, let's crush them, and that makes it seem like, oh, it's so heroic, everything they're doing, and the gore, like their friends dying and everything, that makes you try to feel like the emotional story more, which that's the thing, is like I didn't feel much of it, I didn't feel much for the emotional story of this film. I just tried to like watch it like, oh, this is like an action film, and then after I looked up like all the reasons why they might have had so much gore and everything. I think if you're a critic watching this in 1997 and you don't have all these cue-ins, then yeah, I could see it being like, oh, hey, this gore was a little over the top. They're trying to do a little too much with the emotional story of this and having, the close friends die of Rico here. And it works when you look in hindsight and you see that what they were actually trying to accomplish. So,
yeah, especially if you're already criticizing the film if you're in 1997 feeling it's too fascist or too political on the nose, you're going to criticize the gore on top of it, right? Because you're already anti for what it's supposed to be sharing with the world. So, I don't think it's overly offensive, but at the time I can absolutely see them coming up with any reason at all to throw it under the bus and be like, this is just not appropriate for children.
Yeah.
Cole, you were watching this as a child. How old were you when you saw this film?
I mean, I saw it on TV, so I definitely missed the unisex co-ed shower scene.
That was
a long time.
Yeah, we'll talk about gender equality here in a bit, but that's a big theme in this whole one.
Yeah. No, I was pretty young, but yeah, let's dive into it. So one thing that they is kind of pretty kind of progressive, I dare say, is the gender equality. I mean, they have like a football scene where the quarterback is a female. They have a co-ed shower scene that is in all facets of it, besides people just being naked in a group together, is not sexualized. There's not like close-up shots of breasts and butts and dicks and all that stuff. Everyone's just showering and basically doing another expo dump of like who these characters are, why they joined to become a citizen, why are they here. Let's Kevin, since you brought it up, what was your thoughts about just the general?
I was really surprised, honestly, that when the football scene came around, I was like, holy shit. Like, we're going for this. This is 1997, and this approach is very intentional. Like, it's not wouldn't it be funny if a woman was a quarterback? Like, no, it absolutely not the way that this film approaches it. It's like, if you're for the good of society, right, for the good of the Federation, for better or for worse, whatever their commentary is, they're basically saying that everybody is the same because the Federation is the big deal. So it's so weird to be like, yes, that's bad. Like, yes, we don't like fascism. We don't like, all of those things. But there are some things that this film portrays, and just in general, like equality, right? You don't have to have fascism to have equality, but it definitely goes out of its way to use that equality as a way of saying that we're all on the same page, right? For better or for worse. Shower scene, you mentioned
citizen,
it. What?
Fighting doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. Right. Oh, yeah. I just want you to fight. That's the only thing that matters, is just fighting, your ability to fight. Even like the way that boot camp is portrayed, with her being a leader in the military, I thought that was really progressive and unique too for the time. Even while doing a love story in the that was really interesting to me. It was like, I know this is making fun of it, but there was still the we're gonna be friends, but then we're gonna be lovers, but I'm gonna be you're my subordinate, and then like the whole it was just. But yeah, I thought it was very apparent. It was progressive. I enjoyed it, and I thought that was a cool touch. So
Well, and Diz Flores, the character that we're alluding to, was supposed to be in the original book that this is like loosely based off of, was actually a man. So they definitely made a conscious decision to add it and to kind of add that flair to it. Eric, do you have any additional input on that?
I think because we're, again, we're looking at this film from a satire standpoint, they were just trying to say, like, okay, a body is a body. We're going to take everybody into the military, and it doesn't matter. Whoever can defeat the bugs, we don't care. I think that this film wasn't trying to say much about gender equality. I think that they were just trying to just be like, okay, in the military, at this time, everybody can be equally heroic to destroy these vermin that we're trying to destroy. Like, women can definitely be killing machines just as much as men. Like,
all right, you're not wrong, but I also think that, like, even having the flight authority, like the female captain, and having her, like, the counterpart number 2, I don't know, just seemed like there were some other things that alluded to it mattering. But on the surface, you're probably right. It was just about.
I think what I think maybe the source material was also trying to say. His name was Robert Heinlein, the guy that actually wrote it. In the military sense, there is, like, kind of, you have to throw a little liberalism in there, a little gender equality to achieve the final point of what you're trying to do, and that's to destroy a bunch of bugs and achieve your military standpoints. You have to feign being a little liberal or, like, showing gender equality to actually achieve the propaganda you're trying to put out there. So I think from that standpoint, then, it makes sense, actually. Like, why they tried to show a lot of gender equality in here is because, like, really, they're just trying to get their end goal of acquiring more resources and colonizing. So
let's talk about the cast of characters that we have. So you have, like, Casper Van Dien as Johnny Rinko, Denise Richards as Karma, Jack Busey as Ace, Dina Meyer as Diz, Neil Patrick Harris as Carl. You have all of these, I would say at the time, the 1990s heartthrobs being kind of your main actors and actresses throughout the film. Do you think this was on purpose, or do you think this was just maybe they all had something in common? Eric, let's go to you first, and what your thoughts were about the choices of the people. Because originally, not the director, but I'll say some backstories. Johnny Rico, they wanted him to be in the original book. He was, I think, Filipino or something like that, and he was from Buenos Aires. Obviously, Johnny Rico is very white in this film, and then also the whoever the production company was wanted like Mark Wahlberg and someone else to be a part of it, but they chose differently. Why do you think that is?
When you put Casper Van Dien into Google, it comes up as Juan Rico instead of Johnny Rico under his character. Just want to share that.
The reason I think that is, again, they were trying to, like, cast a lot of people as, I think, Aryan-looking people. They were trying to cast a lot of people as blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and, like, I guess I do believe that the director really was trying to do all this. This is the other question a lot of people put up there is, like, this director did RoboCop, which is also a little bit of a fascist film. It's, very pro, like, police, militaristic police. Oh, yeah. And I felt like that film wasn't exactly a satire, but this one was trying to be. But, yeah, like, I think they did purposely try to, like, cast all these kind of blonde-haired or very good-looking people to be like, okay, this is, if we were doing military propaganda, we are going to cast all these very Aryan-looking people because this is what this country will want to look like. And I think they might have been actually very conscious in the casting of that and changing our main character from Filipino to a very, like, American Mickey Mantle looking type guy.
Kevin, do you have anything?
I do. There's a couple things I want to throw in here. First thing I want to talk about in the cast is Mr. Michael Ironside. That man's voice is probably the coolest. I mean, other than his character just being absolutely ridiculously over the top as the lieutenant, but like his just gravity voice is it's just so cool. Michael Ironside, fucking phenomenal Canadian actor, by the way. Just great. He did a phenomenal job in that role as the stereotypical teacher being called into active duty and being just an absolute badass. Hilarious. So we'll give him credit. Denise Richards, super white. Neil Patrick Harris, super white. Casper Van Dien, super white. Yeah, they definitely went out of their way to be like, the future of the world is in the hands of all of these white people. And then you've got Seth Gilman being the token black man.
Yeah.
You have to have one of them, right?
He's from The Wire, too, and he's a great actor, right? Yeah, I love The Wire. He's from The Wire. He's awesome. Anyway.
So, but even Eric Buscotter, I didn't know his name at the time, but he played the dummy who got his head blown off. I recognized him before. Dean Norris goes on to be the guy from Breaking Bad, yeah. Amy Smart, she was in, was it Euro Trip?
Road Trip.
Yeah, Road Trip. Anyway, I'm going down this list of people that I recognize, and it's all just a cast of who's who in the 90s for some of these folks, which is super interesting. Intentional, as all get out. They did a good job getting together. It's weird when you look at Casper Van Dien because you don't think about like anybody else who could do that role. Maybe like Claude Van Damme or something, but he looks almost the same anyway. Like it's like jutting jaw and everything else. So they did a good job with casting for what they were going for.
Yeah,
I didn't know NPH Neil Patrick Harris was in this when I was watching it, so I was like, "Oh, holy shit!"
And he plays more
I thought he was
like a
extra.
bit part. Like he is like at the start kind of a main person, but like as we
his
go
whole
on,
psychic thing.
yeah, like he's not in there much until the end. So
yeah.
Yep.
No, but the director Paul has after the fact came out and basically said that in his mind when he pictured Johnny Rico, when he saw a picture of Casper, he was just like, that is the like pinnacle of like white blonde haired blue eyed man that I need for this role. So if it wasn't intentional at the time, he's definitely leaned into it, and like Eric alluded to, I feel the same. I think they definitely made he made RoboCop and kind of dabbled with it, but I think Starship Troopers, he maybe perfected his satire of the fascism and things that he may have experienced throughout his time in Holland. Now, my next question, and I'll throw this to Kevin: are the bugs dumb? Do you think that they are dumb and worthless, and do you think they are the baddies?
All right, those are two different questions. Are they dumb? No. Are they the baddies? Yes, I suppose, in the sense that they're trying to blow up whoever's in their space, but all right.
Wouldn't you?
Are they dumb? No, they wouldn't be. They can't be dumb if they're being able to launch
their
interstellar
home.
weapons at approaching starships, right? That doesn't make them dumb. Their ability to attack in large numbers, to pinpoint vital organs on the folks that they're attacking, they certainly know what they're doing. They have a communication system between them. They have a hierarchy among their race. No, they're not dumb at all. They just happen to be a different species other than humans. Are they portrayed as the baddie? Yeah, they're absolutely portrayed as the baddie. I do find it super ironic and interesting, right? That scene where Neil Patrick Harris touches the brain bug, and they're asking, "What do you feel? What do you feel?" And he says, "If scared," and they all start cheering like mad, crazy people. I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, I know Eric's been alluding to it, and we've talked about it this whole time, this whole idea that it's a super satire, but like that moment for me was the one where, not that it solidified it, I knew it the whole time, but it was truly like, that's the, yeah, you're all celebrating like it's, the best thing on the planet that this bug is scared. And it's just like that's definitely a commentary on all sorts of weird things when it comes to war. Not weird, but things that no one really wants to talk about. So no, bugs are not bad, bugs are not dumb. They just happen to be in a situation where the humans have to shoot something, and they're in the way.
Eric?
Yeah, I think bugs definitely, like, in this film, they're not portrayed as dumb. In real life, I mean, like ants can, they have whole colonies and are
That wasn't the question, Eric.
Yeah. But it was a means to an end. Like, okay, a lot of Nazis, referred to Jewish people as vermin. Like it's a very common thing in fascist countries to refer to their the people they think as the people that have ruined their country or something. They refer to them as animals of a sort, and I think bugs are very good imagery to get that point across. Like, okay, these people that we're killing, destroying are not human at all, but they're smart, and I think that for the satire that they're trying to do and the point they're trying to make, it actually works very well because, when we think of bugs, we think, oh, they're gross. If I see a centipede crawl across my desk right now, I'm going to probably want to squash it. I've been better about that in the last few years. I at least try to capture it and let it outside. But still, I think our visceral reaction to bugs are like, let's squash them. And in the point of this film, it is very good, like imagery and like a good metaphor to put across to be like, okay, we're destroying a whole colony of people, a whole colony, like in a whole planet basically, just because we think that they purposely destroyed a city of ours, but actually they probably are just, creatures defending their home planet. So, yeah, I think that the imagery works really well, and I think I get it, after reading more into the satire aspects of this film.
What's interesting is they approach this whole idea of a fascism and all of this, but it shows a culture that is working, right? It's showing a community that is functioning for the most part, right? A military state, schools, fully fledged, citizenships, rich folks, all of that jazz, and it's showing that it can work. Even though you're not supposed to want it to work, right? It's definitely
is that just what we're seeing on their video channel? We're not seeing the bad parts of their whole society. Yeah.
Does it not fuck with? But at the time, like the audience in 1997 probably wasn't looking at it the way we look at it, right? They're probably looking at it like, what do you mean that not this? I don't want to think this is good. This is bad. And they clearly saw that at the time. But now we're looking at it as a commentary. I just feel like the writers had it on a different level when they were writing this. Like they definitely were putting some good thought and effort into making this commentary on all of authoritarian governments, and all of that.
Yeah, so. For sure.
Yeah. Well, and kind of leaning into that, one of the things that I read and I've kind of seen is, the best way to get a group of people together and work together and things like that is a common enemy. And like the arachnids are the enemy, right? They're the enemy of the human race. So now all of a sudden, all of Earth is united against one common goal, whether, and they're willing to, maybe make some certain moral decisions that, they normally wouldn't do, but when it's against an enemy that is so, vicious and terrible as the arachnid foe, where they're showing, one dead bug next to like a dozen dead bodies of soldiers and stuff like that, they definitely lean into that. And I think, if you look at it from a United States and introspective, our whole country is founded on war, right? Like the Revolutionary War. We've, you talk about the Great Depression and the New Deal. Well, the New Deal really didn't do much. If you look into it, it was all about our implementation of getting into World War I and World War II. And then
it did a little bit, if you want to get into that, but
yeah. But we've definitely
made it so people weren't living in homeless encampments everywhere, constantly.
Yeah. But like United States is a militaristic based country. That is what we're founded on, and that's what we've established our whole basis out of. So I think like this whole film is almost like if you took that to the utmost extreme, obviously to the satirical level, you would get to the level of, if you want to vote, you have to be a citizen. Well, and then, we're already getting to the point where they're talking about if you want to vote, you have to meet certain criterias and things. I don't want to get into all that politics, but it is something that is even 20-something odd years later is still applicable. And I think it'll probably be applicable for ever, given how the human race is.
How our country started was, but we don't have to go too far down the rabbit hole. But if you wanted to vote, you had to be white and you had to own land. So that was like very, very a small percentage of this country. And yeah, I think the idea though of have to have served in the military to be able to vote, that is actually kind of like new for. I think it was in the source material, and that was like a new idea at that time, but like wasn't really far off. Like that source material came out in the late 50s, and so it wasn't that far after Nazi Germany and World War II. So, yeah.
So, leading into this discussion, I love this movie, and I really wanted to talk about it, and I think recently it's gained some more publicity just because of the cultural impacts that it has had from a film and even a video game perspective, which it goes into like Helldivers, Earth Defense Force, and in the new Dread movie. Have you guys played any of those games or seen any of those or been a part of it, or have you watched anything that may have gotten some potential inspiration from it?
All I know about Helldivers is what Reddit tells me about the Helldivers, because there's a whole bunch of subreddits about Helldivers and the way that the developers nerfed a bunch of stuff, and it's about spreading democracy is the idea. Is spreading democracy, and there was a bunch of infighting, and it feels like they're very real political aspects of a video game where you have a bunch of real life people all invested into the workings of the video game, and there are some aspects of this Starship Troopers built into this, in the sense you have this federation of sorts. I don't know any of the real details, but you've got aspects of this game or in this movie in this game, so and it's big enough for me to see it, but that's the only experience that I have. I don't play the game personally.
I have not played any of those video games. I guess, like, in modern media, things that might have taken inspiration from this, I can't really think of too many, like, war satires nowadays, but I think we were talking...
A lot.
Yeah. I think we were talking about, like, before... Tropic Thunder, maybe? Tropic Thunder? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think that.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I think we were talking about, like, in terms of A24 films, an odd relation would be Spring Breakers, where it's, like, almost an exploitation film that is satirical, but like you can't really understand the satire until you read more about why the director made the film. So yeah,
one connection that I had from an A24 catalog, which was kind of like a post-apocalyptic, almost like a utopia type thing, which was The Lobster, where it takes like a very satirical, almost comedic. I think they took it satirical in like almost a
different way.
Yeah. If satirical was on like a scale,
yeah,
Starship Troopers was on one side where it's satirical without as much comedy, while The Lobster takes the satirical with more comedy. And I think Yorgos Lanthimos I think those two kind of collide in terms of just like this utopia type world that seems perfect, but is definitely not. And there's a lot of conflicting ideologies and things, and The Lobster, it is a bit of a stretch, but you have those kind of inspirations in terms of films, I would say, from an A24 catalog.
For sure.
I guess with all that being said, is there anything that we didn't touch on before we get to our final reviews that you guys wanted to touch on in terms of your Starship Trooper knowledge? I do have one question. Why do you think this film, it has had, I think, 3 mainline films and an animated movie and other things, that none of them have been good or have reached the success that this one has? Why do you think that is? And do you think there will ever be a film that kind of maybe toes this line of the action satirical sci-fi-ness?
I think it's because it's a cult classic and has become a cult classic after the fact. So I think it's a bunch of people trying to take advantage of that fact that it has become renowned since its release. All the action, all the budget, all of the blowing up and the violence and all that is absolutely was real as hell. But the dialogue and the way that they wrote the script is not. And I think that's such a really unique thing. That's the reason that we're talking about it now, is just it's so unique and different. And that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, I definitely think at the time, like in the 90s, it probably, because there were a lot of films that were coming out, like, kind of in the similar vein of these action films that were very pro-military. Like, I even think of Independence Day, except like aliens were coming to us at that time, or in that film. And I think there's a lot of films in the same vein at that time that just, this film got kind of overshadowed, and then they like, people looked back on it and they were just like, oh, this film was trying to do something different than a lot of these sci-fi films of its time. And I think that resonates with a lot of people. But I'll also say that there might be people that probably watch this and take it exactly like on face value, and maybe they laugh a little bit about like this, like the meaning of the director, but they actually enjoy the real reason of it, or not the real reason, but the reason that people think it's trying to portray. And so, like, yeah, it gives me conflicting feelings, this film, too, because I really do hope that our director and the writer were trying to truly do a satire here, but also it doesn't, like, hit the satire over the head enough for people to understand it immediately. And that's where it gives me, like, conflicting feelings, I think. So,
fair enough. All right. Again, anything you guys want to touch on before we do our review?
I'm just really surprised it took me this long to see and talk about this movie, to be completely honest with you. And the whole weirdness of going into it with a total different perspective of what it ended up being. Like, there's so many times I was sitting there like, what the fuck? Like, they're just so violent and so just out there. And like, how did I not know more about this film is pretty much more what I was telling myself as I was watching this. Like, how did I not know that this was out there? And, you know, having this discussion all about this later is just even more eye-opening on a bunch of different levels. So, also weird that Mr. Casper didn't go on to do anything after the fact.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, absolutely nothing.
Yeah. And I'm guessing, like, just the people that took up the sequels to this, they probably took it. I mean, have you seen any of the sequels, Cole?
I've watched them all.
Are they satirical like this? Or are they just trying to live in the world and just be, you know?
Yeah, they're 100% just trying to live in the world.
Okay.
I think every director or opportunity that went into the sequels, they did not understand what he was doing to like the level, and it just felt off and weird, and just didn't have the legs, and it just felt like they took the Starship Troopers universe and were like, we're gonna make a bug killing movie. And it's like, it's not what Starship Troopers is. Yes, there's like, it's all, you know, they're killing bugs and all that stuff, but that is not what makes it, I think, special in terms of what makes it stand out.
Yeah.
You know, I would say if you're gonna watch one of the sequels, you could watch the animated like CGI one, is probably the best. All the other live action ones are not good. They're really, really bad. Yeah, if you want Starship Troopers, Helldivers 2, fantastic game. Definitely go play that. Or the new, like, the Dread movie with not Arnold Schwarzenegger, or not Sylvester Stallone, the other one that came out with the actress that played Cersei. That's a good one. That's kind of like a similar feeling. RoboCop's very good, obviously, by the same director. And then there's a new an animated Netflix show called Yakatoris, I think, that is like very, very familiar, but more just on the comedy side. But yeah, they're bad. They don't hit the mark for sure.
For sure.
So, but all right, let's get into our review of our vibe discussion. I'll go first. Obviously, I love this movie. I think it's very good. I think you know, I liked it as a kid. It's definitely grown on me, and like the more I understand, I think the more I realized how much thought was put into kind of just an over-the-top sci-fi action romp that was like pitched and then just became, you know, Paul took it and really just, I don't know, did a lot of very small things that you may not have noticed at first. And I think if you either go into it with the knowledge of it being a satire and the fascism and some of the stuff thrown into the mix, you'll definitely see it, and you'll like almost see the bugs like mourning the losses of their friends and like understanding that they have their own culture and stuff, and we're kind of just coming in and destroying them. And it's maybe a political use for continuing control of the politics from a militaristic viewpoint, and how something as tragic as the destruction of Buenos Aires can be maybe utilized for political gains and things. Just overall, I really like this movie. Do I think it's a perfect movie? No, I think there's a lot of flaws in it. It's, from 1997. Some of the visuals are kind of wonky. The acting, or just like I would say like the acting or the writing of like the weird love triangle / rectangle that they've got going on is kind of funny and over the top, but maybe that kind of also helps lean into the satirical nature. But I gave this like an A- 24. Like, I still think it's an A. I really like it, but do I think it's perfect? Definitely not. But I really, really enjoy it. So I'll throw it to you, Eric.
Yeah. So yeah, when I first watched this film, I really did not get what they were putting down, and so I kind of understand the people in the '90s that were just like, "Oh, this is just kind of another action shoot 'em up film," and there's definitely some fascist like symbolism in there. But then, yeah, you see they purposely casted these people. They purposely put these people in certain types of costumes, and the director himself was actually like from a Nazi like Nazis colonized his city, for a small part of his childhood. And you realize, oh, yeah, I think they were actually trying to be satirical about all this, and they were doing it in kind of a smart way, but at the same time, I think about like all the black comedies I've seen in the last 20 years and how much like satire they've accomplished, and I think that like this film doesn't really have a lot of moments where you really laugh like hard at like the satire, and that's where I think it gets lost on me a little bit. But at the same time, like I kind of like enjoy that in this like 90s like genre of like action sci-fi films, this existed and was trying to do so much more than all those other films were, and it actually puts it ahead above for me and for a lot of those films. So I kind of like respect like the era was in. I respect what the director was trying to do, and the acting, the practical effects, like all that's pretty cool to me. So I think that lines me up around a B. I would say a B. And yeah, it's just like a solid B film that I would like definitely I would tell people to watch this on a Friday night. Like have some popcorn with it, but also keep in mind that they are actually trying to say more with this film that then meets the surface. So that'd be my ending review for it.
Kevin.
All right, a lot to say about Starship Troopers that hasn't already been said. I think there's something to be brought up here, and it may not be the best time during the review, but what if our writer and director was just blowing smoke when he was lying to the folks about whether or not this was a satire the whole time, and whether he really actually enjoyed what he was bringing to life? I mean, he does make this look pretty appealing to be part of this federal government and to fight with all of your friends against the tyrannies of the bugs. And he could have been realizing that he was facing a huge financial loss if he didn't deny that his film was full of Nazis. I don't know. I am just wondering all of a sudden if he was just full of shit and was absolutely intending on making a movie that was as lambasted as it was. And here we are 30 years later trying to make an argument for it because we can. I don't know. That's the other side of the coin. Did I enjoy watching this film? Absolutely. I thought it was great. I thought it was a blast. It makes me wonder why it wasn't as successful as it probably could have been. Outside of the themes, of course, I was looking at the other films that were released in the same year, 1997. That was The Lost World, Jurassic Park, Men in Black, The Fifth Element. Titanic came out a couple months after this film. So there's just a couple of giant films that probably pushed this one down a little bit, especially if anyone had really a reason to wonder if they're genuine or not about their intentions when it comes to depicting some of these things. When you put Neil Patrick Harris's character absolutely in a straight-up Nazi uniform, regardless if you're trying to make fun of it or not, you're truly doing it to invoke Nazism one way or another. So that's for the viewer to decide. I do think that in today's culture, in today's world, it is worth looking at from a perspective of why is it relevant? Why is this something? Because government still exists, and because power still is absolute for those who control it. And it usually happens to be those that have a gun, which is just awful to think about. But I am rambling because this beer is delicious, and I'm at a point in the night where it doesn't really matter anymore. I'm giving this film a B, or that's even a fucking, yeah, it is a film. The last one we did wasn't a film. That's how we're at right now. A B, great, enjoy it. Starship Troopers. Yeah, I keep thinking Super Troopers while I'm doing this, and my brain's just not quite there. That would be hilarious if Super Troopers were in space. Maybe that's what I was thinking about this whole time, too. Probably not. All right, there you go. That's my review.
All right. Well, I appreciate everyone's time, and I hope all of you listeners enjoyed our brief foyer outside of the A24 catalog to explore some of our favorite films that may or may not have been seen by others, or might have some interesting, observations and discussions that we may break into. So again, appreciate everyone's time. I love you all. I hope you have a great day, good evening, good night, or wherever you're at, what you're doing. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Please rate and subscribe.
Bye.
Give us a 5
Rate and
star.
subscribe.
I did my part.
I did my part.
Do your part.
Fuck the bugs.
Thank you.
A24 Vibe discussion!